I am your host Slim bin Mohammed Rafi, and this is my YouTube channel Zumeer Universal. International Criminal Court of Justice and warrants of arrest for 3 war criminals, and I think right from the start I must say it should be 4 war criminals, and their head must be Joe Biden, who is the so-called American president, the weakest president, the worst president with the lowest rate. And you look from this cruelty of this man, and he refers about his father being the greatest Zionist on earth, which is really a dirty abuse to call someone Zionist. Most people try to avoid, and they say they are Jews and their name is being used. They are not the followers of Prophet Moses, and they are not the one who follow Torah, but it's a political dirty movement with the ethnic cleansing, where killing people, the mass genocide or worse than Holocaust is their motive, and it's their objective, and it's their target, and that's what they want to achieve. And a man so dirty, so filthy, so low in character, so disregard for the human basic rights, and then he has crocodile tears when his son died of cancer, and he has a crocodile tears when his other son was, booked in Russia for bribe, and when Trump talked about this. So now you can understand that the filth and dirt of this man. And look at the dare he says. Then he should then the bloody move to that little tiny state of which it's the opposite. And now I think it is the best thing he is getting is from the university students and their parents, that they are cancelling all the agreements for their research for which the technology this man has been boasting. Another beast which is called Netanyahu. In this short little video, I'll show you the Jews talking about Jews, so you can understand how ugly is the to spare Joe Biden from not being arrested at any port. And I will wish that he is arrested in North Korea, because the way they are going to torture Joe Biden in North, he will then understand what is it meant to kill the children, and what is it meant to kill the women who are armless, who don't have any ammunition, they don't carry arms, they don't kill any people. And he says that he has the right, he will kill more. Look at this, what he said to the Israeli Prime Minister in this little clipping. I'm going to show it to you. And see what your own president, although is a film star, he says that's Holocaust. And so to see how a dirty man you elected, and you can say that how he cheated and deceived Obama, the first black president or African American president of United States, because this man was handling with all the foreign policy and reassuring on the sidelines to the Netanyahu, the worst war criminal on earth, that I'll handle this man, you don't worry about him. In other words, he was acting as a back seat driver of all the time Obama was in the office. So you see, when you have dummies in there, and you one after other successively, you find is the worst people with their strings hand in this. It's like a monkey. You must have seen a juggler carrying a monkey to carry out whatever he says so that he can earn some money. Here it is opposite. It's the monkey who's making the juggler dance. I'm really sorry, depressed, and I'm happy that all the parents of the students in the whole 52 states of the university, the best universities of the United States, came out on the road and told this, who the hell are you? Who is Israel to get our students handcuffed, molest the teachers, beat up the teachers, the professor, the woman who's being the troopers insulted and handcuffed. She's saying, I'm professor. But they would disregard completely for a teacher and a professor. So you can see what kind of a country this man, or the educational institution this man has turned into. So if anybody who goes and votes for this man, Look at the other man, the only other man, also another Jew and a Democrat. Clean slate was Bernie Sanders, who never took one single penny from the epic. Why the hell the Americans did not elect him? Why did they elect morally corrupt Trump? And then this man, the worst person on earth, with the blood of people on his hands, I don't understand. And I hope, oh God, that this Gaza, the blood of these Palestinians, innocents, will not be wasted, and these people will be buried forever. And America will never, ever, ever elect such puppets again and put them in the White House and put that little tiny devil place at its place, which is called the Zionist state, which is not Israel, it's an apartheid state. Listen from the young Israelis telling about the film that Israelis, how the young people are turning against them. They are now deserting and they are not obeying that. And so I'm showing you the faces of the 3 criminals who will be arrested anywhere on the earth they go. The world is going to shrink for them. And the 4th one I'm going to show you is sitting in the White House. He must be arrested as well. Let him try and manipulate. And anybody, any country who came into his influence to there, then will be treated like a dog in the whole world if he did it. So to let the whole world, China and Russia should make sure that the International Court of Justice is not influenced. None of the judges is influenced. If they will be heckled like anything, like animals in the whole world, if these 4 people are not arrested and they don't pay for the blood of all those innocent people on their hands. In the end, I have a message for these 4 war criminals. 3 of them you can see in the picture, they are Israelis or Zionists, and the war criminals and from the blood of those innocent kids and those newborns killed in the incubator and those whose parents have collected their limbs and teeth, nose, and their bodies cut, their kidneys and things they removed for transplants or experimentation or trying to identify their hostages. There has never been even an animal digging up this. If you see a baby elephant die, you will never see such a cruelty how these 3 people, and they could have never been able to do it without the largest criminal who's funded this crime and who is proud to be a Zionist. So I think now you face this, and in the end you will see that yourself, that you have woken up the whole world. Look at the youngsters, the students from all across the world. Can you now suppress? Have you gained anything? Have you caught any of your hostages, got them released, or you got any of the Hamas leader? So accept your failures and sacrifice. Offer your sacrifice yourself so that your whatever left is of Israel is, and I'm talking of Jewish Israel, not the Zionists, and of United States, of I don't know, I should call it states, or the colors of as there is a CNN program, the United Colors of the America. So if you want to save 250 million Americans country in whatever little form, because it doesn't just belong to white supremacists or Zionists as self-claimed this is, or African Americans or Asian or Hispanics. It belongs to all of you who live in there. So I think you should voluntarily sacrifice Joe Biden and who funded this, and without the approval of the Congress, supplied bombs and missiles, and I think the Israelis should do and voluntarily gave these 3 people to the Interpol so that they can rot in the jail, and all those innocent kids and the women and the civilians, the blood. And all those universities, they have demolished the hospitals, they have demolished the people, they have starved. At least that is with some satisfaction to the whole world that humanity is still alive.
What's happening in America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned, and condemned unequivocally. But that's not what happened. The response of several university presidents was shameful. Now, fortunately, state, local, federal officials, many of them have responded differently, but there has to be more. More has to be done. It has to be done not only because they attack Israel, that's bad enough. Not only because they want to kill Jews wherever they are, that's bad enough. It's also, when you listen to them, it's also because they say not only death to Israel, death to the Jews, but death to America. And this tells us that there's an anti-Semitic surge here that has terrible consequences. We see this exponential rise of anti-Semitism throughout America and throughout Western societies as Israel tries to defend itself against genocidal terrorists who hide behind civilians. Yet it is Israel that is falsely accused of genocide, Israel that is falsely accused of starvation and all sundry war crimes. It's all one big libel. But that's not new. We've seen in history that anti-Semitic attacks were always preceded by vilification and slander, lies that were cast against the Jewish people that are unbelievable, yet people believed them. And what is important now is for all of us who are interested and cherish our values and our civilization, to stand up together and to say enough is enough. We have to stop anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. It always precedes larger conflagrations that engulf the entire world. So I ask all of you, Jews and non-Jews alike, who are concerned with our common future and our common values, to do one thing. Stand up, speak up, be counted. Stop anti-Semitism now.
No, Mr. Netanyahu, it is not anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas to point out that in a little over 6 months, your extremist government has killed 34,000 Palestinians and wounded more than 78,000, 70% of whom are women and children. It is not anti-Semitic to point out that your bombing has completely destroyed more than 221,000 housing units in Gaza, leaving more than 1 million people homeless, almost half the population. It is not anti-Semitic to note that your government has obliterated Gaza's civilian infrastructure, electricity, water, and sewage. It is not anti-Semitic to realize that your government has annihilated Gaza's healthcare system, knocking 26 hospitals out of service and killing more than 400 healthcare workers. It is not anti-Semitic to condemn your government's destruction of all of Gaza's 12 universities and 56 of its schools, with hundreds more damaged, leaving 625,000 students with no educational opportunities. It is not anti-Semitic to agree with virtually every humanitarian organization in saying that your government, in violation of American law, has unreasonably blocked humanitarian aid coming into Gaza, creating the conditions in which so many thousands of children face malnutrition and famine. Mr. Netanyahu, anti-Semitism is a vile and disgusting form of bigotry that has done unspeakable harm to many millions of people. But please, do not insult the intelligence of the American people by attempting to distract us from the immoral and illegal war policies of your extremist and racist government. Do not use anti-Semitism to deflect attention from the criminal indictment you are facing in the Israeli courts. It is not anti-Semitic to hold you accountable for your actions.
Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region.
If I were a Jew, I would be a Zionist. As a matter of fact, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
I have had the view for the past 24 years that the only way in which there will be peace in the Middle East is when the Arab nations know there is no division between the United States and Israel.
What my record has been unstinted in the defense and support of Israel.
The United States has never and will never lose our resolve. Israel will never waver.
I'm never going to leave Israel
For the past 6 months, the images of a genocide out of Gaza have gripped the world. Razed neighborhood after razed neighborhood, mass grave after mass grave, mass slaughter after mass slaughter. Fathers carrying their children's body parts in plastic bags, mothers screaming, looking for whatever remains of their families, children left without limbs, without faces.
What did these children do wrong? What crime did they commit to deserve tons of bombs on their heads?
While the genocide of the Palestinians is carried out by the state and military of Israel, the United States, under the leadership of President Joe Biden, has played the role of its sponsor.
The defense of Israel is still critical, so there's no red line.
We are not going to create any conditions on the support that we are giving Israel to defend itself.
We will always be there by your side.
The United States strongly supports Israel and its right to defend itself from Hamas. And that support is unwavering.
I wanted to ensure, is that still the case, that the administration has no red lines at all?
That is still the case.
Since October 7th, the United States government has provided billions in military aid to Israel and unwavering political and legal support, both domestically and internationally, in addition to direct military support. But as the Biden administration and the Democratic Party find themselves in a political crisis in the middle of an election year, there's been a specific media narrative shift on who's actually running the show.
Nobody expects Prime Minister Netanyahu to do the things that must be done to break the cycle of violence.
It's curious to me to see Netanyahu talk the way he does when he tried to interfere in American elections.
We could go down the list of what Bibi Netanyahu has done to make Israel weaker, to make them open to that attack.
This line isn't necessarily new, but it actively erases not only U.S. culpability in the genocide of Palestinians, but Joe Biden's own ideological support of it, and what his legacy should and will be.
There's no apology to be made. None.
Welcome to Backspace, where we look at how the story is told in the headlines, and then we think about how we can tell it a little differently.
It feels, like the bare minimum.
So one of the things that the film does really well is that it kind of presents almost a very sympathetic lens on what it means to grow up in the communities that you've grown up in, and why you have this relationship with Israel and what it means on a very personal level.
Yeah.
So I was watching the film with a couple of friends, and we paused it after 15 minutes, and we were just kind of joking that the film was so convincing in its argument for Zionism in the first 15 minutes of the film, that if you just turn it off there, you could go away and be like, all right, I get it. Yeah, I'm pro-Israeli now. And that was refreshing, but it was also surprising because I didn't expect that going in, but it ends up being such an important part of the story of how the film presents voices such as yours.
Yeah.
Why is that aspect of it important, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things I want to say about that. I think, there is a real reason that Zionism resonated so deeply for so many Jews. It wasn't the majority position. It's important to say there were always those debates. And there's also a reason that so many Jews, saw the Zionist project as a genuine safe haven, right? And why after the Holocaust, the idea of, having a home resonated for so many people. And it's, I guess, important. I think that we're in a moment right now in which, so many of the decisions that were made by imperial powers after World War II, we're seeing, right, the costs. We're seeing that international system that was set up after the Holocaust and its failures and hypocrisies, turned up to 1,000. The system of international law that was created ostensibly to, protect all people from human rights abuses and uphold rights for all people. And we're seeing the way that, the Nakba happened in 1948. There's always been this exception. for Palestine that was built into this world system. And we're seeing the cost of that failure that failure to consistently enforce these principles for people around the world. But I think that, just on a personal level in our communities, Jews are not, we are not special. I mean, I was raised with a narrative that I was special. Had to unlearn that too. But, we are not unique. We are people who have, come from histories of oppression and persecution, and also benefited from many systems of privilege, especially in the United States. And I think that this learning and unlearning process is not, there's obviously a unique experience that the Jewish communities have gone through, but it's not something that only we have to go through. I'm just, when you asked that question, it made me think about a professor that I had in college. I had to read this article my sophomore year of college about, it's this very famous interview between Benny Morris and Ari Shavit in Haaretz, where Benny Morris talks about the Nakba, the expulsion of Palestinians in 1948, and says, basically, yeah, we did it, and it was a good thing, and we had to do it. And I remember reading that interview. It's so blatant and simple. And I read it, and it was so arresting to me to be hold on a second. First of all, I didn't know about the Nakba. And also just to hear somebody be that clear about supporting these crimes that were committed. And I remember coming to my professor who, and saying, I can't believe that, this happened, and that this is something that people support. And I remember he said to me, he was from Turkey, and he said, I had to come to terms with really horrible things that happened in my country as well. And, hearing that somebody else, from a totally different context was also having to grapple with the really dark sides of his country's history was, a really important part for me in my own journey.
And I think that's a really astute point, right? That every society has a story about itself that it likes to tell itself.
Yes.
That allows it to feel like it has a special place in history. And almost no society is an exception from that.
Yeah, no. And I think it's there's a story that Israel likes to tell itself, right, about being uniquely moral. Obviously, that story is really crumbling before our eyes right now. But it's also important to say it's all people have the capacity to be victims, and all people have the capacity to be perpetrators and to commit, horrible crimes. And the idea that experiencing oppression in the past exonerates you or makes you unable to do those things, that's where I think we have this debate in the Jewish community, right? Is it never again for us, or is it never again for anybody? Is the lesson of the Holocaust to circle the wagons and
Students across the globe rising up for Palestine. This is the message from Voices of the Soul. Keeping up this long road, stop fighting.
Never. Unexpressive feelings running through my veins.
It's a revolution where the youth and the students once more are on the front lines of this revolution. And everyone here to the community, you must come tomorrow, the day after, and the day after, because the students here will remain steadfast.
What's the soul of the 47? What's the soul of the 47? What's that soul of the 47? The soul of the 47. No wage and no guarantee. No land on the back now. No country, no phone. the فلاحين born. درب القوافي بنعرفها طفني ورود تلم تلم ربني معبود راسمة صنع عهود وقت الحزم حنا الجنود حرب وسلم رغم حدود حنا حلم الغياب نستقبلها يا ابن العين يا ابن النهر يا ابن النبع يا ابن البحر ابن السمك والزنقة هاي الزقة وهاي احنا بنت العين بنت النهر بنت النبع بنت البحر بنت السمك والزنقة هاي الزقة وهاي احنا What's the soul of the 47? What's that soul in the 47? Shout of the soul in the 47. Find the fruit on the trees. Send it off to wherever you please. Make sure that the money comes back. Come back to the peasant, to the fellaheen born.
Fantasma de Yahoo. Not only to stop Palestine, we want our genocide to stop.
Do you know where your daughter is right now?
Right now, gotta be somewhere because the police start chasing all the students. They are threatening. If we don't leave the campus, we are gonna be arrested. But the students are so great. Look at them. They don't want to leave the campus.
उनके आर्मी चीफ, डिफेंस मिनिस्टर और नेतन्याहू इनके पैरों तले जमीन निकली हुई है, क्योंकि जो हकीकत टीवी ने आपको उस दिन खबर दी थी अब वो पूरी दुनिया में छा गई है। अमेरिका ने ऐलान कर दिया है, क्योंकि फौजें इस वक्त तैयार हो गई हैं, फोर्सेस यानी तैयार हैं इस वक्त नेतन्याहू को गिरफ्तार करने के लिए 123 ममालिक में। हुआ यह है कि इंटरनेशनल क्रिमिनल कोर्ट ने फैसला कर लिया है, वो इशू करने जा रहे वारंट्स, और अमेरिका ने कहा है कि अगर वारंट्स जारी हुए तो ये जंग फिर बड़े पैमाने पर चली जाएगी। और अमेरिका ने धमकी दी है असल में तो इस वक्त इजराइल को बचाने के लिए बरतानिया और अमेरिका सामने आ गए हैं, तो उन्होंने धमकी दी है। नेतन्याहू ने रिक्वेस्ट की है अमेरिका से कि इमीडिएटली इस पर पाबंदी आयद करे, आईसीसी पर, इंटरनेशनल क्रिमिनल कोर्ट पर। 123 ममालिक में किसी भी जगह नेतन्याहू एंटर हुआ तो उसी वक्त वहां की फोर्सेस उसको गिरफ्तार करेंगे और गिरफ्तार करके वो नेदरलैंड पहुंचाएंगे। अब सूरत हाल ये पैदा हुई है कि उसके बाद इंटरनेशनल पाबंदियां लग जाएंगी और पूरी दुनिया में इसराइल आइसोलेट हो जाएगा। ये इतना बड़ा इनको झटका लगने जा रहा है, इतना बड़ा झटका लगने जा रहा है जिसकी इंतहा नहीं।
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें, उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर